I am Local 34 of San Francisco Clerks. I am the president of the clerks.
What are we doing here today?
We are here because we are standing on the shoulders of our members who are against police terror and systemic racism on the waterfront and in the United States. We had a very spectacular Juneteenth rally on the 19th of June. Local 10, Buster Trent Willis, and myself was at that rally. And as you can see, the community was well behind us. After the rally, the very next day, we had some person go into the restroom over at SSA and tattoo graffiti on the bulkheads of the restroom with the slogan of KKK, expletive niggas die, and Trump forever as his t-shirt. Now, we do not stand for racism. No way, no how. We are against that, totally. We cannot tolerate it in our industry because it makes it uncomfortable for us to work. If we are to be able to deliver the goods of the United States as longshoremen, we need to be working in a safe and clean and pristine work environment, along with being protected from the COVID-19, which is appropriate PPE. Now, when you look back at the situation over at Stevedore Services of America, which is SSA, they have a history of having these racial epithets. This is not the first time. We have addressed this issue before. We had members even go to court over this. And I'm not going to tell their story. I'll let them tell it for themselves. We have a very significant holiday coming up, which is Bloody Thursday, which our union was born on Bloody Thursday. Our union is made up of very different races, very different cultures, and we have to look at that. But the main significant thing about Bloody Thursday is that police brutality was one of the reasons why we celebrate this day. We had men who were killed trying to protect their right for their working conditions, for the guarantee of being able to establish themselves as longshoremen. But it was the police and thugs who tried to change that working condition and tried to change the narrative of the longshoremen. But we don't stand up, we stand up to that. We believe that the longshoremen and the community came together and jumped over the hurdle of hate and got together, and we have a now better and collective union because of that. We are very community supported. We have so much power because the community stand behind us, and we stand behind them in every endeavor that they may have. That's why we feel so hard when we feel about racism and people doing things that should not be tolerated here in the United States. And that's why we're talking about SSA. SSA has an opportunity to straighten these things out, but they seem to be wanting to gloss things over and go back to business as usual. We can't have that. Our issues have to be addressed, and our issues need to be dealt with. So this Sunday, to help us celebrate our Bloody Thursday celebration, due to the COVID situation, we have our usual boat ride and celebration and have food with one another and see people we haven't seen. So what we're going to do, we're going to enlist the power of the community and the power of the longshoremen and go out and have a car caravan leading from SSA to let them know that this is not going to be tolerated, and go out to the Coliseum, to John Fisher's playground, to where he thinks he can hijack the city council by telling them that I wanted to build condominiums and build a stadium downtown Oakland because the one out there where it is not good enough for me. We can't have that. We need to protect what we have. And there's only one way to protect that, and that's to go out and protest and demonstrate that we have the power to change things, and we will. So if you think that it's going to be business as usual, you are dead wrong. Business as usual is over with. It's time to start and go into action. So at this time, I want to turn the mic over to my partner and one of my best friends, Mr. Trent Buster Willis, Local 10 President, and all together 100% union brother.
Trent Willis. I am the president of the International Longshore and Warehouse Union Local 10, and also a member of the committee to stop police terror and end systemic racism. And the reason we're here today is to once again shine a light on police terror and systemic racism. In 1934, July 5th, the ILWU was formed because of an act of police brutality against two of our brothers. We celebrate that every year, July 5th. We use the platform that we have to shine a light on police brutality and ultimately to shine a light on systemic oppression, which is basically what we're dealing with. Here in Oakland, California, it's sad to say here in 2020 that we're still dealing with some symptoms, I call them, of systemic oppression and systemic racism. As you know, on June 19th, we were the first union to take action and actually do something to recognize Juneteenth, which is a holiday celebrating the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, actually, when the slaves in Texas found out they were free in 1865. We celebrate that every year. Unfortunately, after a huge successful celebration on the 19th, on June 20th, the longshoremen came back to work to racial graffiti drawn in the bathrooms at one of our terminals. And unfortunately, it's not the first time that this has occurred on the waterfront. We've had incidents of swastikas being drawn on walls and bathrooms here in the Bay Area, up to the latest incident where we had graffiti drawn of a Klansman with the N-word plastered over it, stating KKK all day, and something about Trump on the graffiti. We've noticed a uptick in racial graffiti being drawn around the area since Trump has been elected. And we're here to once again use our platform and to use our holiday to draw awareness to what's going on. The only real way to address a situation is to first draw awareness to it. But I think it's important that your listeners understand what July 5th is really about for the ILWU. On July 5th, 1934, in the struggle to put an end to systemic oppression and to form a union for the West Coast longshore workers, as in all cases, the police were called in to squash that uprising. As a result, two of our brothers were killed, and ever since then, since we've won the right to have a hiring hall, we won the right for working conditions and fair wages since then, and we celebrate every year the contributions that our ancestors on the waterfront left for us to be successful working class people. How that relates to today, and it's the reason why the ILWU has always been opposed to systemic oppression, systemic racism, and police brutality. Fast forward all the way to 2020, you'll see that the lessons that the ILWU learned back in 1934 still need to be learned today by members of our society who still want to continue the cycle of systemic oppression here in the United States against black and brown people, against the LGBTQ community, against women, or whoever. Systemic oppression is wrong. On July 5th, once again, since we are going through the COVID-19 pandemic, we usually have a celebration at the Union Hall to celebrate our inception. But this year, due to the pandemic, we're going to be doing things a little different. We're going to be shining a light on once again, those different issues that I talked about. We're going to be having a caravan starting at the Stevedoring Services of America terminal where the graffiti was found. And we're going to be caravanning all the way to the Oakland Coliseum. And the reason we're going to be caravanning to the Oakland Coliseum is to shine a light on another form of systemic racism and oppression when the very wealthy, rich, come and take advantage of poor communities and buy up land at cheap prices to bolster their millions and billions of dollars, while the poor people in the community continue to suffer at a disproportionate rate. And what I'm talking about is the proposed stadium for the Oakland A's here in Jack London Square here in West Oakland, which they want to, the Fisher family wants to purchase public land, not only in here in downtown Oakland, but at the old Oakland A's stadium site at the Coliseum to build high-priced condos and to build recreation for the wealthy. When we have homeless people sleeping under bridges, we have people struggling because of COVID-19, we have an astronomical unemployment rate right now that we need to address. I don't think it's time for us to be, as a community, to even be considering building a playground for a ball team when we have all of these problems that need to be addressed financially here in our community. So once again, the ILWU is utilizing its platform that we've been utilizing for a number of years to bring awareness and to keep the public informed about systemic racism, systemic oppression, and police brutality, all of these things that contribute to society's continued problem of having to deal with all of these different issues and all of these things that you're seeing on the news today. So on Sunday, July 5th, starting at 10 a.m., we'll be gathering at the Stevedoring Services of America terminal, 1717 Middle Harbor Road. There we will have some speakers there. We will then caravan to the Oakland Coliseum, where we will then have speakers at the Oakland Coliseum. We're saying no to systemic racism, we're saying no to systemic oppression, and we're saying no to the Oakland A's and the Fisher family for trying to purchase public land that is supposed to be used to provide good paying union jobs for the citizens of Oakland, and they want to build a ballpark, recreation area for the rich, a resort for the well-off. And once again, we're standing strong, we're not having it, and that's our take on the issue.
Okay, I have a question. What was the response of SSA to these racist graffiti that were put up? I mean, and also the other continuing incidents, have they ever had a public response? I mean, it was on their property that this was put up.
There was not a sufficient response to the issue. We haven't had an opportunity to sit down and talk to SSA yet, but I want to be clear, this is not the first incident at this terminal in regards to racial graffiti. In the past, there's been some noose hangings at this specific terminal. There's been graffiti drawn on the walls, as I've said before. Even at our other terminals that we work here in the Port of Oakland, the Tray Pack terminal, as well as the Everport terminal, we've had incidents of racial graffiti being drawn on the walls. There has been some investigations by local law enforcement. There has been nothing so far uncovered, and we're still pushing for justice here in regards to those situations.
And what should they have done? What do you think the SSA should have done when this racist graffiti was put up? To notify their employees that there was an issue? I mean, isn't it shocking that they would not say anything when this is reported by the members?
Well, after the first incident of racial graffiti, which was the noose hanging incident, SSA put up no tolerance signs in the break rooms, informing all of the employees that there would be no toleration of discrimination, of any type of racial drawings, any type of discrimination because of race, because of gender, what have you. But where the problem lies is we have to recognize that since the election of Donald Trump, we have seen a huge uptick in the, I guess you want to call these people's bravery to go and to expose themselves in this kind of way in regards to drawing on walls or however you want to express yourself. We have people who feel free to do that now because of the rhetoric of Donald Trump, especially here in the Bay Area, the hub of the fight for racial equality. Even to mention the Black Panthers, for one, originated here in the Bay Area. The Bay Area has always been an example of a melting pot, for our country. And to have this type of racial hate and displays of hate here in the Bay Area after all of these years of standing up and fighting against racial inequality is a shame. And the ILWU has always been a union that has stood firm against racial hate and racial inequality and oppression. So of course we're not going to do anything different in this situation. We're going to stand on our morals and principles, and we're going to do everything we can to fight against racial hate.
My name is John Hughes. I am the business agent of Local 10, ILWU. I'm here to speak to two things, and there was a question raised, first of all, that's pertinent to me about the racial graffiti that was found at SSA, Stevedore and Services of America. Back in 2016, we found racial graffiti, some words that said F niggers. We found also a couple of noose. Myself and 5 other people took SSA to court over that matter. In court in that matter, beside putting up the no tolerance for racism and all of that stuff, they were supposed to install cameras. This was about maybe a year ago. We were in court, and no real investigation was done. These items that were found were either wiped off or either taken away and stored someplace where we didn't see them again until the court case, and kind of those things changed. And if you're asking me, am I saying that SSA fooled around with the evidence? Yes, I believe they did. And people may say that's pretty strong, but I'm speaking the truth. The problem is when we talk about this Bloody Thursday and we talk about what we as the ILWU celebrate, we celebrate this right to protest against these things. But yet these things that we protest against by this company and the other company are being suppressed. They're being pushed out. They're being erased. If we bring it back to 2020 of the 20th of June, right after the protests that we had on the 19th, celebrating Juneteenth, but protesting systemic racism and police brutality, this graffiti is found, and as soon as it was discovered, this same company wanted to erase it. This has now set us back to 1860 and before that, to where these things that are being oppressed there, that oppresses us, is being hid now from the public. No one wants to step up and no one wants to take accountability. So now with that being done, yes, we had gone to court and yes, we had pushed this issue, but we had a jury of 12, 9 were white and 3 were Hispanic. And of course, that was a 9-3 judgment for SSA. And that was the way it is. And I encourage us as a group of people to answer our jury summons. But also I employ us as a group of people to pay attention. And you said the stadium, right? Stadium, right? Stadium? You mentioned the stadium?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, man. All right, and I employ us as a people to stay awake and see what's going on. We see what happened with George Floyd, where this man's neck was kneeled upon, and there's a public outcry. But let's also remember when Colin Kaepernick knelt for this same type of brutality that was going on, people protested that, saying it was disrespectful to the flag, and the narrative changed, and it was never about the flag. It was always about police brutality. It was always how disproportionate people are being unjustly served. And if we talk about being unjustly served, and I'm gonna try to hook this train up in a minute, we talk now about the Fisher family, who wants to take the jobs out of East Oakland, where they had, in order to build a ballpark and waterfront property. So now you take a disenfranchised people who depend upon that economically in that area, and you take it and you move it out here to build not only a stadium, but waterfront property for the likes of your friends so that they can have this luxurious place to stay. Now, while I'm doing that, I'm also removing jobs that pays good benefits for over, 3,500 people in a union. And we're going to take that job. And once again, here come the systemic racism and oppression that is moving a group of people out that have good paying jobs, that their families depend on this. Families depend on this just so that they could have a playground. These things have plagued us throughout the years. And just because the Emancipation Proclamation was signed doesn't mean that we were set free. We're now in modern day slavery to where they do it different. They're still writing the words nigger, and I say it because N-word, there are a lot of words that begin with N. But this one that they use really stings. And I want the public to know how degrading and degrading it is to us because my forefathers died. My grandfather was, great-great-great-grandfather was hung, called a nigger. He was hung, but yet it's okay to write it in these places. Yes, it's okay to move the disenfranchised people out and let's disregard them. This is not right. So that's why our Bloody Thursday celebration is important, that everyone come out and stand with us against all of this systemic racism and oppression. It's very important that everybody comes out. And it's about all I have to say.
Ricky Cox. We're doing here today to tell everyone about Bloody Thursday. We call it Bloody Thursday because on July 5th, 1934, we had some merchant seamen that was standing with us in solidarity, fighting the good fight, trying to earn honest wages, and the police in San Francisco gunned our brothers down, 2 brothers down. And for that, for them standing in solidarity with us, we honor their respects for paying their lives, for fighting for our union hall and our hiring hall and our working conditions that we got today. That's one of the main reasons why we're here. Also, we're here because there's a situation where the Oakland A's want to build a ballpark, and also standing up for the George Floyd situation, from Trayvon Martin to Oscar Grant to George Floyd to the ladies that died, Sandra Bland. We're standing up for all that also against racism. Also, we're trying to recognize that SSA to try to do better in the managing what goes on their ports. That we were promised that they were going to have cameras in certain areas, and it seems like after they won the lawsuit against discrimination that we fighting them for, it seemed like they just don't need to adhere to that. Like they don't need to put these cameras up, but we need to be safe on the job, and we're here to express my opinions on that. One thing I wanted to say about the Oakland A's ballpark, I get a lot of people that hit me that, that wants to be a longshoreman. One thing about a longshoreman is you can earn wages that'll set your whole generation up, and you don't have to have a college degree. You could have went to if you could get a TWIC card and you'd have done wrong in the world and you didn't write yourself, you could come out here and set your family up for the next generations. And if they take that Howard terminal from us, it could be hundreds of people that's trying to get on with us right now as we're expanding around here that won't be able to get a job to feed their families around here that could pay good wages for their next generations. Now, if the A's was offering people wages and benefits to where they was going to feed generations of people, I wouldn't mind having that ballpark right there. But since them bad boys is going to be $15 an hour jobs, it doesn't make logical sense to put it in one of the highest prices in America to live. So we're standing by on that. Also, we might even get cut by that ballpark coming here, because if you think about it, when the ships go by, this is going to be just like the Giant Stadium. So it's going to be even more in that cove, in that reef, between Alameda and Oakland. It's going to be so many jet skis. There's going to be so many people on their boats and everything like that, that our ships are not going to be able to get through safely. Those ships that come from the same way. And when those ships turn around, people are going to be zooming up and down. It's going to be a hazard for the companies. The companies are going to move their jobs to Seattle, which means that cuts us even more. Excuse me, I'm sorry. That cuts us even more. So that's one of the main things that we're trying to fight. So July 5th is a day that we can stand and we can promote that these things don't happen. This is a day for us to protest. It's also for us longshoremen to hug each other. And I think that's about it.
Okay. My name is Graham Carlson. I'm a deckhand with the Inland Boatmen's Union of the Pacific, which is the Marine Division of the ILWU. I'm also on the committee to stop police terror and end systemic racism. I'm here today because the IBU stands with our brothers and sisters and siblings in the ILWU and rejecting bigotry in the workplace. And I'm also here to say that I believe that the only way to fight these issues is to do it with solidarity, and not just solidarity within the union, but solidarity with our community. And so I encourage everyone in Oakland, everyone in the Bay Area to drive out to the SSA terminal on Sunday at 10 a.m. and join us. This is about huge problems, and we can only face them if we group together and show them that we're not going to back down. Thank you.